What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, boxing pundits and former boxing legends, they weigh in on the possibility of 8-division world champion, legendary, iconic Filipino superstar boxer Manny "Pac-Man" Pacquiao taking on undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the WBO welterweight world champion, who is widely considered the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world by many, Terence "Bud" Crawford. Two in particular stood out. That was Ray "Boom Boom" Mancini, who is a former world champion, and also boxing pundit, colorful, legendary analyst for HBO, Jim Lampley. Now, Jim Lampley, he stated that he believes no way, no shape, no form, no how that Manny Pacquiao at this advanced age of 42 years old and having had, so many big fights in his career is able to compete with Terence Crawford, who's considered by many to be the #1 fighter in the world, who's only 33 years of age. And is also, like Jim Lampley stated, he says that Manny Pacquiao of yesteryear that fought Marco Antonio Barrera, he says that Manny Pacquiao, you have to favor that Manny Pacquiao to beat Terence Crawford. But Terence Crawford is able to give Manny Pacquiao so many different angles, gives so many different looks. He's so versatile, seeing as though Terence Crawford can switch from orthodox and southpaw fluidly. And he transitions from defense to offense fluidly. And he has power in both hands. So Jim Lampley, he says there's no way that Manny Pacquiao wins this fight. And he will be absolutely surprised if they make this fight, if the fight comes to fruition. Ray Mancini, he believes the other. Okay? He says that Manny Pacquiao has been in his big fights, has had a lot of experiences. And yes, he's 42 years of age, but he's an anomaly in the sport of boxing. He says, and Terence Crawford resume, no slight to Terence Crawford, he says, but Terence Crawford hasn't fought any guys, big name fighters. He says, if you look at his resume, yes, he's accomplished a lot, but he doesn't have a signature fight, a signature win in his career. He doesn't have a legacy fight. And oddly enough, this is what Terence Crawford, he told Hall of Famer, former Olympic gold medalist, former 2-division world champion, retired undefeated superstar boxer Andre S.O.G. Ward on their special Relentless. Terence Crawford, he was admitting that he's yet to secure that legacy fight, okay? Terence Crawford, he stated that's what he's after. He's trying to secure that. And he's trying to secure that and do so with Manny Pacquiao. Now, he's been trying to secure a Manny Pacquiao fight for the better part of 6 years. So Ray "Boom Boom" Mancini, he says that Terence Crawford hasn't fought on this level. He says the eye test, Terence Crawford passed the eye test, but he hasn't fought any big name fighters. Any fighters that could truly match his skill set. Not to say that they will win, not to say that Terence Crawford will lose. But he says someone to challenge Terence Crawford. He's yet to experience that. So he says this is going to be a huge step up in competition for Terence Crawford. Now we know, like I stated, Terence Crawford is a 3-division world champion. Terence Crawford was undisputed at one point in time in his career at junior welterweight. But like Ray "Boom" Mancini said, he's fought guys like Yuriorkis Gamboa, who's a 3-division world champion, Olympic gold medalist, but he was a very small guy coming up in weight to challenge Terence Crawford, okay? And then he fought, in my opinion, Victor Postol. That was a huge fight, in my opinion, okay? Because Victor Postol was seen as the boogeyman at junior welterweight. And Terence Crawford, he dominated Victor Postol, okay? When people were saying that Terence Crawford was avoiding Victor Postol, they also were saying 2-division world champion superstar boxer Danny Swift Garcia was avoiding Victor Postol as well, okay? So, in the fashion that Terence Crawford beat Victor Postol, I believe that was absolutely huge. Then he beat Jeff Horn, and to do so, at his first fight at welterweight, Jeff Horn was in a rough, rugged fight with Manny Pacquiao himself. I thought that Manny Pacquiao should have gotten a nod in the fight. He had Jeff Horn seriously hurt a few times. Looked like he was on the verge of stopping Jeff Horn. He just never actually got the stoppage victory, but he should have got the nod. But Terence Crawford, he beat Jeff Horn his first fight at welterweight. And then he beat Julius Indongo for undisputed. Now, Julius Indongo, he wasn't seen as an A-level fighter, but he did have 2 big wins in his career, winning the world titles. And Terence Crawford, they fought for undisputed. And Terence Crawford, he knocked Julius Indongo out with a body shot. So I believe that Terence Crawford, he passes the eye test. Now, me personally, I believe that Terence Crawford, at any point in time in Manny Pacquiao's career, he gives Manny Pacquiao a lot of trouble because he's very rangy. Guys that give Manny Pacquiao trouble is guys that have pure boxing ability, guys that are rangy, guys that could counterpunch, and guys that could deal with his athletic ability because they themselves are athletic and have quick feet. Manny Pacquiao, his biggest thing, his biggest weapon in his arsenal is the fact that he has very, very fast feet, and he has very fast hands to go with a very powerful left hand. So with that said, when you got guys, Manny Pacquiao is 5'6" with a 67-inch arm reach. Terence Crawford is 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. So he's going to have at least a 2-inch height advantage over Manny Pacquiao, and he's going to have a 7-inch arm reach advantage over Manny Pacquiao. And the fact that Terence Crawford can switch from orthodox to southpaw, and Terence Crawford is accurate and has power in both hands, and he's athletic and can move his feet as well, I believe that would give Manny Pacquiao trouble at any point in time in Manny Pacquiao's career, especially a 42-year-old version of Manny Pacquiao. Now, I do agree with both guys. Ray Boo Boo Mancini, as he stated, Terence Crawford hasn't fought anybody. Who has he fought? What's his signature win? Who's he beat on the big stage? Now, most recently, he beat Kell Brook in his last fight, November 14th. He stopped Kell Brook in dramatic fashion. But even in that fight, you could see that Kell Brook's jab was better than Terence Crawford's jab. Now, Terence Crawford, his high ring IQ, his skill set came into play, and he made adjustments, and he ultimately stopped Kell Brook. But with that said, this is not the same version of Kell Brook that we were accustomed to at welterweight, okay? This is Kell Brook, who hasn't fought in that welterweight division since 2017. This is Kell Brook, that was, who has suffered 2 bad stoppage losses to Errol Spence and Gennady Triple G Golovkin. This is Kell Brook, who was fighting at junior middleweight, but hadn't had a high-profile fight since the Errol Spence stoppage victory. So he simply wasn't the same guy he once was, but he still gave Terence Crawford trouble. And Terence Crawford, he made the necessary adjustment, and he ended up stopping Kell Brook, okay? So with that said, I agree with Ray Boo Boo Mancini when it comes to the level of competition. Now, he did fight. He stopped the last 6 opponents he's faced. He stopped Julius Indongo. He stopped Jeff Horn. He stopped Jose Benavidez Sr. after that. Jr. after that. He stopped Amir Khan. Amir Khan wasn't the same guy. And like Ray Boo Boo Mancini said, a lot of these guys that he's faced just aren't on a high level, or they simply are not the same guy they once were. So Amir Khan was a shell of his old self, of the Amir Khan that we were accustomed to seeing. Amir Khan was brutally knocked out multiple times in his career. So he wasn't the same guy. Kell Brook wasn't the same guy. And, Igor Kavalauskas, as Ray Boo Boo Mancini says, he's not an A-level fighter. He may be a C plus B minus level fighter, and he gave Terence Crawford problems in the fight. And yes, you can hear even Andre Ward. Andre Ward stated when he called the fight, when he was commentating the fight, Andre Ward was saying that he didn't like the fact that Terence Crawford was getting hit as much as he was getting hit. That Igor Kavalauskas was being first. And he didn't like that Terence Crawford was in a rough, rugged fight with a guy of Igor Kavalauskas' status, okay? And so with that said, I agree with the fact that he hasn't fought the level of opposition or on the big stage like Manny Pacquiao. But I agree with Jim Lampley because I look at the styles, and I say styles make fights. And the fact that he has a very long arm reach, he's very versatile. He's able to use his left hand just as well as he's able to use his right hand. He's able to switch from southpaw to orthodox fluidly. He's able to transition from offense to defense fluidly. And more importantly, he's a great athlete that's very strong and a counterpuncher. Now, Ray Boomer Mancini, he states that, well, you look at Keith Thurman and Manny Pacquiao. He says that Terence Crawford is not bigger or stronger than Keith Thurman. Well, Keith Thurman is 5'7" with a 69-inch arm reach. So Terence Crawford is a bigger guy than Keith Thurman. Okay, he's more rangy. And Ray Boomer Mancini, he says, well, he's not as strong as Keith Thurman. He says that Keith Thurman is much more stronger than Terence Crawford, and he's far more dangerous than Terence Crawford. He says that he has a lot more power than Terence Crawford does, and he's far more dangerous than Terence Crawford is, okay? So he states that, Keith Thurman is just a far more dangerous opponent to Manny Pacquiao than Terence Crawford is. Well, I believe they're about the same level of skill set. The difference is I believe that Terence Crawford's ability to switch from orthodox to southpaw gives him a leg up on Keith Thurman. Yes, Keith Thurman has a high ring IQ. Keith Thurman was known as one-time Thurman, but Keith Thurman hasn't had big knockout shown big knockout power in quite some time. And, Keith Thurman was landing big, clean punches on Manny Pacquiao, but they didn't have much effect on Manny Pacquiao. Okay, but he still, after getting dropped, he was hurt badly in the 11th round, I believe, in the fight with Manny Pacquiao to the body, and it looked like Manny Pacquiao was on the verge of stopping Keith Thurman, but he just wasn't able to close the show, okay? But he still got the victory. Keith Thurman, though, weathered the storm and fought that fight to a split decision. So I believe that Terence Crawford is more versatile. Now, like Ray Boomer Mancini stated, we've seen Keith Thurman do it on a higher level than we've seen Terence Crawford do it. Right, because we saw Keith Thurman in the ring with Danny Garcia. We saw Keith Thurman in the ring with two-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Sean Porter. We've seen Keith Thurman in the ring with Manny Pacquiao, okay? So yes, we've seen Keith Thurman in the ring with higher level opposition and display his skill set. But on the flip side of that, I believe that Terence Crawford has the ability to show the same outcome and get the same outcome as Keith Thurman did. I believe that Terence Crawford would beat Danny Garcia as well. So, Jim Lampley, he says the only guy that could beat Terence Crawford is undefeated, unified WBC, IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer who is widely considered by many to be the top 3 pound-for-pound fighters in the world, and Errol the Truth Spence Jr. He says, unless I'm grossly missing something or overlooking somebody, that's the only guy I give the opportunity to beat Terence Crawford, not Manny Pacquiao, disadvantage. So we got to see how this plays out. The target date was June 5th, according to legendary promoter, top-ranked CEO and promoter Bob Arum. Reports surfaced that was the date, but then you had Team Pacquiao come out and dispute that and say that's absolutely not the truth. So we have to see how this unfolds. You had Timothy Bradley, 2-division world champion, colorful analyst, boxing pundit for ESPN and Top Rank. He says he highly doubts the fight comes to fruition. So we got to see how it unfolds and plays out. But make sure y'all hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed? Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
Hey, this is Ebony Bridges, Blonde Bomber, and you're watching Blue Blood Sports TV.